I wanted to show you some techniques with your stencils today. So these are the stencils that are in the current catalog, and I will be sure to link those for you down below as well. This is the stencil I'm using today for the most part. I'm going to use those little hearts that you see there. Okay, I'm going to take some washi tape and just hold my card base down with that a little bit so it doesn't move. And on a small stencil like this, you can tape it down or not. It's totally up to you. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Now I'm just going to bring in my raspberry ink and a sponge dauber, and I'm just going to do a simple sponge it through the stencil technique. This is the most basic way probably to use stencils. I'm just going to shift that stencil over a little bit and make those hearts go all the way across my card. I'm just moving that stencil around to get the hearts in all the places that I want them. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to bring in a little sentiment stamp that says thank you and stamp that right on the bottom, and that completes a very, very simple card. For the next technique I want to show you, I'm going to bring in texture paste, which I've used in some of my other videos before. So this might be a review for some of you. But I'm just going to put a little bit of that on my mat, and I'm going to add a couple drops of re-inker to that to color it. If you don't have re-inker, you can simply just swipe your ink pad on your craft mat and mix it that way as well. But I wanted a really intense color, so I just went ahead and threw in that re-inker. And I am mixing that up. And you'll see that I have a deep color. I'm using Lagoon for this project. Okay, I have my card taped down to hold it in place, and I'm just using a palette knife, and I'm going to put that over that stencil. I'm just holding it in place with my hands, but I'm going to put that on pretty thickly just because I want it to have a really good raised image, but you can put it on as thick or as thin as you like for your project. And I'm just going to take and scrape off that excess, and that is what that card is going to look like. And I'll move that up closer to the camera here in just a second for you, but I'm going to go ahead and stamp that sentiment on there just like I did the other card. This next technique I'm going to show you, I learned from Chelsea Voris-Marty, who is on the creative design team at Close to My Heart, and I thought this was so cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my paper over the top of the stencil that you see here on my desk. I tried that small little heart stencil and it didn't work as well with the smaller stencil, so I chose to use this bigger one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a sanding block and just sand over the top. This is another plug for white core cardstock, another cool technique that you can do with it. So it's just going to take the color off the paper except for where the stencil is and leave a really cool design in the paper. I would recommend, this is just a little like sanding block that I had on hand, but I would actually recommend like a real sanding block for woodworking. I think that would work even better. So I'm trimming that down to 3 by 3 to match the front of my card, and then I'm just going to put that on. I've stamped that thank you sentiment again on white cardstock, and I've trimmed that down to a small rectangle, and now I'm just going to show you how I dovetail the ends. I just cut up from the center, just up a little bit, and then I cut from each corner to the top of that center cut, if that makes sense. And I'm going to do that on both sides, but that's kind of how I get a pretty good looking dovetail. It's not always perfectly even, but I think it works pretty well. So I wanted to ink up the edges of that sentiment piece a little bit, so I'm just swiping that directly in my black ink just to give it a black edge so it pops off that card base. So I've adhered that sentiment just now, and I'm going to bring that card up for you to look at close. And then I will bring all three of those cards in for you to see. I just think they are super cute. I love how they turned out and really how simple these techniques are. So here are some close-up of those cards. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I would invite you to subscribe if you'd love to learn more techniques. Thanks so much for watching today.